Okay, so go nice and easy. It's a chilly morning here in Cambridge, so wherever you are, whatever the time of day, I think it's probably chilly everywhere. So go nice and easy as you start off. And those of you who are familiar with the postures, just remember the postures can help you to um, loosen up, but it's still going to take time to get the circulation going, to get the blood and the energy flowing through your body. So just standing with your feet hip width apart, directly below your hips. Try and just loosen a little bit in your hips and your knees, and eventually in your shoulders, turning from the center of the body. So as you start this, just try and get a sense for how movement is created through your body. So in the first instance, hold your hands behind your back. This is the movement that we're making. It really isn't anything to do with our arms. Turning here in the center of the body, so that's the area between hips and waist. And when I do that, you'll see, if I come a bit closer, even my knees are moving a little bit. It's something that we want to reduce eventually, but don't get too fussy about that for the moment. But you see, it's uncomfortable with my arms behind my back, so I just let them drop, and because they've dropped down, they'll start to move. And actually, when I do that, my knees are less likely to move. So an indication perhaps of how our body moves as one unit. When you change one thing in your posture, there's going to be an impact right the way through your body to a greater or lesser extent. So I'm not trying to get my arms in any particular place. I just want this feeling that when I move in the center of my body, first of all, I notice the movement in my rib cage, for instance, and then in my shoulders, and that moves my arms for me. So I'm just bumping into the wall there. Let me move forwards just a little bit. Try and get a sense for how much space there feels to be in your body, even if it's not very much. And what we want to try and do is make sure that that space is filled with the movement, but that we don't force ourselves against the boundaries of that space. The movement itself will begin to open up the space in the way that water will open up a space on the ground. It will erode soil, it will dissolve obstacles, smooth them off. So be patient as you do this. And again, particularly anybody watching who is new to this, there was perhaps a time and place in our practice when we might push a little bit more to develop one aspect or other of the art. But the starting point is always to work out where we actually are. And I think this is important that we have a sense of where we're moving from. So when we turn in the center of the body, everything gets affected, but the center doesn't exist on its own. And in particular, this sense of the connection to the ground. If I come a bit closer, you'll see we'll go into more detail of this, but I'll just sort of let my hips drop back. Call it sitting, and it's as though you're trying to sit on the ground. Feeling of your pelvis dropping down. This stabilizes the center. That central part of the body, sometimes classically described as being like the hub of a wheel. And there's various ways that we can gain from that. One is that the hub of the wheel is fixed to the vehicle through the axle and bolted onto the frame, or however it's fixed. And again, the fixing point initially here in Tai Chi is that sense of the center dropping. This is what we call rooting down in Tai Chi. Second thing is that when we turn in the center, like the hub of a wheel, our whole body is affected. So when we change something here in the center, that change reverberates through the rest of the body. When we turn, our body responds. When we turn back the other way, our body responds. Just let your attention rest for a few moments in your back and sides and see if you can notice the play of the muscles. The muscles will extend and contract, so as well as the soft tissue as well. It's not just the muscles, but usually easier just to focus on those muscles to begin with. This is a pattern that runs through the entire system, extension to contraction, from up to down, from inner to outer. The generic term is yin yang, and a rhythm and a flow develop between these. Don't go too far in any direction. There's a difference between a muscle or a part of the body that's extended and maybe under load, and that same part of the body that is taken too far, where it starts to grip tightly. We want to avoid that gripping, tightening feeling. So there's a point at which the extension naturally draws us back the other way. This is where the rhythm begins to develop quite naturally. Just be aware of areas in your body that feel a bit tight or stiff. And again, our first response is always to see if we can let the movement itself begin to soften those areas, to release those areas. We may need to do more in terms of understanding posture a bit better, maybe being a bit more incisive with our attention. And this focusing of our attention is a crucial part of the practice. These are moving meditations. And we get more out of this art, I think, when we view them from that point rather than as exercise. We are exercising, of course, there's no denying that. But the plan is, if you like, the thing that we're looking for is to bring together three basic aspects of the art. The physical side of it, our bodies, the mechanics of the movement, the structures, and so on. The movement itself, the flow, the energy. And that's something which is both internal and external. And finally, our minds, our attention, and our intention. Once we manage to focus our attention, we can start to bring in a sense of intentional movement, using general awareness, using different ideas, using imagery. And again, for those of you with experience in these arts, bringing in aspects of memory as we recall how this can feel, or how maybe a particular exercise can go. So we gradually gather our attention, we begin to focus our intention, and in doing so, we gently bring body, mind, and energy together and allow them to develop together. One of the, I suppose you could call the aims, one of the outcomes we would look for in these arts is that sense of movement, that sense of energy becomes much more harmonious and fluid, and eventually stronger as well. And this is an aim in Chinese medicine, one of the principal aims. Our well-being is seen as being directly linked to this energy in the body. And there's many forms of energy, many forms of energetic reactions going on in our body. There's the obvious kinetic energy, movement, but various other things as well to do with energy that comes from the food we eat, the air that we breathe, and the various processes all require some form of energy. One of the long-term aims is to bring about a very natural harmonization of that, so that rather than aspects of our physiology, aspects of our movement working against each other, everything begins to harmonize. Now, turning your hands palm out, raise them up a little bit, to no higher than your shoulders, but maybe lower. And notice that my elbows are hanging down. So my hands, if I was still, my hands would be slightly in front of my body. So I'm not trying to pull them back or anything. And this can sometimes give us a better sense for how, when we move in that center part of our body, hips, so on, arms will follow. Try not to stiffen up in your arms. Try and leave the big muscles of your arms a little bit loose, a little bit soft, so you can feel them responding to the movement. Fingers soft, slightly curved, palms of your hands slightly curved. And then just drop your hands down. Now, put one foot forwards. Try to keep the width of your step. You can see the background between my legs, and transferring your weight. So now we've added another factor to this, not just the turning in the center of our body, but also the movement of our weight from one foot to another. And again, this helps to bring to the surface an awareness of the relationship between the center of the body, our legs, our feet, the ground beneath our feet. And these are the foundations. The arms, the upper body will respond to this. And so the primary focus initially is always on what's happening in legs, feet, hips, waist. And that's the foundation that we build the rest of the movements on. This often requires an adjustment in our thinking, in the way that we view our body. We naturally gravitate towards a greater awareness of what's happening in arms, hands, the upper body in general. It's quite natural for us to do that. So there's a constant reminder to come back to the center, to the ground. On the other side. And this too will reinforce the meditational aspect of when in meditation, if what we're looking for is that sense of deep calmness and centeredness, then we begin to realize that we're able to bring our attention intentionally to particular parts of the body. And the main part of the body we would do that with is that central part. And we start to get a sense that a part of our attention can rest there. And from that resting point, we can observe what's going on in the rest of the body. And with that observation means we can begin to direct our intentions more successfully. This is not mind over matter. We're not trying to force our bodies into a particular shape, a particular movement that is uncomfortable for them. And shake out. We're trying to find the path of the least resistance, like water running down the hill. So, feet parallel as much as possible. A slight turnout is fine, but try not to have them splayed out too far. And if you're like me, your feet do tend to turn out, then you'll probably have to keep coming back to that adjustment. They're directly below your hips, so you've got these parallel lines, more or less, going up through your body to your shoulders. Your body can start to feel well supported. Have your weight a little bit forwards. I'm exaggerating this now. It's not that far forwards. The focal point is just behind the balls of your feet. And to counter that slight sense of angling forwards, it's really just allowing your hips to drop back. We use terms like releasing, letting go, softening. And if you want an idea of how that can feel, and this is useful because then we can direct our intention in that way, just hold a hand out in front of you, make a fist and grip tightly. And you feel instantly the tension going up through your body. It's tiring, it's uncomfortable. And yet we can also come closer so you can see, you watch my fist. If I just open the fingers up a little bit. I still have a fist, I still have a structure, but there's a space down through the middle there. And that transition from the tightly gripped fist to the softer fist, again, tight to soft, is what we refer to as either releasing, letting go, softening, various terms that we use. And then having a sense of what that means, we're now trying to apply that to our intention to lower back, hips and buttocks, belly, thighs and knees. So there's this general sense of just settling in mind and body. This allows gravity to work more freely through our body, and we allow ourselves to drop back, and then we start to feel the counter movement. We push up with the ground, we're expanding again, and then contracting. In each direction, there's a tipping point where the power shifts as we go up. Gravity takes over from the momentum of the upward push and draws us down. As we drop down, the resilience in our legs, the spring that's in our legs begins to push us up. So again, we have this movement between opposites, not going too far in either direction. And this is one of the principal sources of energy in Tai Chi. As I said, there's lots of forms of energy, but this kinetic energy is something that we work with, begin to shape in Tai Chi. So now bring the hands around as though you're cradling the ball, and as you feel that expansion going up through the body, then you push your elbows out, drawing your hands up, and then the opposite movement going down. This is the exercise rooting down, and a key principle here, a key aspect of this is to try and get a sense of our center of gravity dropping. I've seen it mentioned that our center of gravity should be 6 feet below the ground. It's quite a long way, but that's our intention. And the lower our center of gravity, the more stable we are. The lower our center of gravity, the less weight we have to carry in our upper body, so the more we're likely to get that sense of releasing and tightness and stiffness beginning to drain away. And the lower our center of gravity, the stronger we get a sense of being pushed up. However, there's a limit. So I can drop my center of gravity down to here at the moment. If I go a little bit further, suddenly I'm tightening up and stiffening up, and that will block the energy. So just again, listening to your body, using that focused attention to note what's going on when you're likely to go too far, whether you've got more space to move in. One image that we commonly use is that we're moving through water, or indeed moving like water. The advantage of moving through water is that it contributes to the flow, but it also contributes to the strengthening, the correct strengthening of body and energy. Because when we move through water, we naturally begin to loosen in our joints and our muscles, because we find that to stiffen up in water makes it harder work. And yet there's still a conditioning goes on physically, and there's still a condition of the movement itself, the energy. So if the image of moving through water is a good one for you, see if you can come back to that on occasion. Another image used is that we imagine the air around us is a little thicker than normal. So we use these images to stimulate various qualities of movement within the body. We realize that our bodies are very responsive to aspects of movement, of energy, to our memories, to our images. We respond to images and memories all the time with physical responses. Those physical responses are often quite small, but significant in as much as they are the building blocks of the bigger movements. So the more we can begin to focus our attention internally, the greater the influence we will have on the big movements that we're making. From this movement now, turning your hands so your fingers point outwards, palms still down, pushing up, hands coming out to the sides. This is the movement, the wild goose. So the image here is obviously of a bird in flight. Most common image. Feeling in your arms can be quite strong. Imagine what it would be like to have a big feather in your hand and to wave it up and down, and the sort of soft resistance that the feather gives to the air around it is very similar to the sort of quality again that we're looking for through our bodies. It's important though not to get too caught up in the images. If an image doesn't mean anything to you, then just put it to one side. It's not a failure on your part. Not all images will work for us. And sometimes, you know, it takes a while for those images to sort of reveal their meaning. And then another change, letting your hands cross in front of your belly and push up. Bringing your arms around as though you're painting a circle, 2 circles in the air in front of you. This is called parting the clouds. Kind of feeling we get when the sun comes out behind the clouds, a gentle expansion. Opening up in the body and then back down again and start the whole process over. So at the moment, the whole body is working as one unit. They're symmetrical movements between left and right. Some good starting points, but now this time when you feel your hands coming down, let them drop down to their full length. And as you push up again, focus on one side of your body, pushing the arm up. At the top of the movement, wind your arm around as though you're plucking a soft fruit off a tree. Pull down. Now switch your attention slowly to the opposite side and do the same thing there. So we've got that basic movement sinking down and pushing up that we're now able to direct through our intention. Still the whole body is moving, of course, but the principal focus of our attention will move from one side to another, not in a hurry. And if you find yourself speeding up, which is very common, then add a third part of your body to just be briefly aware of the center part of your body and then the opposite side. So take your time. It's called Dragon Plucks the Stars from the Sky. And using that image, just be aware that the dragon is refined in East Asia as a much more serpent-like creature than the sort of bulky, fiery beasts that we have in West. A bit more graceful, perhaps. One more on each side. Take your time. Letting your arm come down full length. Where the weight of your arms hanging from your body. Don't stay in this deeper posture, but come up slightly to the posture we were in at the start. Still a slight curve through knees and hips. So you're going to be ball tucked in. behind each knee and in front of each hip. So you've still got that sense of allowing gravity to drop you down. This means that that dynamic that we felt between the ground and gravity, the sinking down, the pushing up that I mentioned earlier, is still taking place within your body. Now bring your hands to the center of your body. Feel how they just rest next to your hips. Bring them up in front of your body, pressing up a little bit above your head. Try not to stiffen up your shoulders. And all the way back and down, letting your attention follow the movement, coming back to your center. And then from there, lift up again, and this time push out sideways and back. Make sure that you don't speed up as your attention comes back. And this reinforces both the physical and the, if you like, the mental significance of the center part of your body. We learn to bring our attention back here, both because this is the center of the physical movement and because it is the seat of that quiet space of observation. And then this time, as you push out, turn in the center of your body. Don't rush the movement. Coming back, giving yourself time just to rest here for a moment and then turn in the other direction. It doesn't matter which way you turn first. And back. And then pushing out to the sides. Again, particularly new people, if you're getting confused and you're getting concerned about, am I going to get it right? Are you forgetting the movement? Try and just let those problems settle back in the back of your mind and focus instead on this returning. You could rest here and wait for us to catch you up. It's not the end of the world if you get something a little bit wrong. And a lot of the practice is to get this sense of contraction in both our body and our mind to the center. And from there, we can move out. Try not to rush. Remember, moving through water. Or whatever image works for you. And again, those of you with some experience, you will have ideas about how to generate this movement, what images to use, what memories to bring in. Remain open to new possibilities, but don't neglect what has happened before in terms of memory and what works for you. One more round. Remember to try and get a sense still from that point of observation of what's happening within your body, patterns of expansion, contraction, fluidity, rhythm. Now letting your hands drop, and then from that center part of your body again on one side, one hand swinging up, and then down. Elbows bent slightly. None of these movements involve a full stretch. We want to try and maintain that space within the body that allows the movement. Not that stretching is a bad thing, it's just not what we're trying to do in these exercises. And now if it's comfortable for you, the top position here, add in the turn. It's called circling palms. Not all the movements have these evocative names, some are more descriptive. And then changing sides. Notice the difference between one side and another, which is often there. Stiffen up in your shoulder. Intention is to feel the movement always from within. And then this time add in the turn. There's no suggestion here that the external aspects of the movement aren't important. It's a matter of how they're generated. So again, pattern of movement and extension out from the center, or if you prefer, from the ground. And then all the way back in. Now, just let your arms rest. And again, with a strong attention on your hips and your pelvis, just gently rock your pelvis forwards and backwards. And notice what happens in your upper body when my hips go back and the pelvis tilts. My head and shoulders go forwards, vice versa. Try not to stiffen up in your knees. And rather than straining in your back and your shoulders to pull yourself up, try and get a feeling that the pull of gravity on hips and buttocks pulls them down, and that draws your head and shoulders up very gently, giving you a much more open, spacious posture. No, we're not trying to tighten up in our neck or our shoulders or our upper back. And this movement, this time, sinking down just a little bit more, being very careful with your back and knees, coming to the upright position, pushing up, this time your arms following the movement, and over. This is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Move as far as you're comfortable. I'm trying to do this movement quite big so that you can see what I'm doing. That's not a suggestion that you should be moving this far. Remember, at the end of the movement, you still want to feel that you could have moved a little bit further. There's still space for the flow of energy through your body. You will get an extension of development in the range of your movement over a period of time. It's a natural, cultivated, organic process. This is rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. And then this time, bringing your hands to rest in front of your belly, turn horizontally, then push the hips back, push your hands forward, swing around the other way and back. And again, I'm exaggerating this movement so you can see what's going on. It's nice and easy. Polishing the table from the back so you can see what's happening in my hips. Turn, push my hips back. I swing my hips across. The head and shoulders follow that movement. I come to the upright position and back. Then I go in the other direction, turning, pushing my hips back, swing around, and again, easy and gently, maybe still with that image of moving through water. Another image we might use here is that we're rolling a ball around. And if that's a better image for you, what you can start to do is imagine the ball getting heavier. One more round. And then just come back to this basic standing position, soften your knees and your hips, arms hanging down by your side. Just rest there for a moment. If you hadn't realized already, you will by now develop an understanding of how strong this can be, particularly in legs. This change in our posture from one where we're stiffening up against the pull of gravity and often putting a lot of pressure on joints like our knees, to one where we're softening. We'll put more emphasis on muscle, tendon, ligament, not just the big mobilizing muscles, but the skeletal muscles. It will engage fascia and bones more, and engage the energy more. And all of that requires time to develop. So the fact that these are moving meditations, that we use terms like soft and release, doesn't mean that we're not working hard physically. And it's important to take care with that, pace yourself. And again, particularly new people, do realize this is a strong exercise. Those last two exercises show that the significance of the center isn't just in our horizontal movement, but in our vertical alignments. So this image of the hub of the wheel doesn't quite fit with that. We'd have to imagine some kind of three-dimensional wheel rather than two-dimensional. But it does highlight again the significance of the center part of the body. This area is sometimes referred to as the Dantian, or lower Dantian, which translates roughly as field of energy or field of elixir, field of medicine. And it's a key area also for the circulation of energy in the body. Some people would say this is where the energy gets stored. So on many different levels, the center part of the body is really important. And we can think about it as a physical center, of course, which is a lot of what we've been doing, but also almost as a concept. And in that conceptual sense, that's when the center engages with the ground. It's almost like this whole area from hips and waist down into the ground and below the ground becomes part of this center. And it might well be that center at that point is the wrong term, but we'll stay with that. It's always very difficult to fully describe what's going on. These are experiential exercises. Now, from this position, imagine you've got parallel lines running through your feet. Sometimes refer to them as tram lines. So turn one foot out and step straight forward with the other foot. So you're still on that line, still got the width across your feet, so you're still supported. You can play around with the angle of the back foot, but the front foot points forwards. More experienced people realize you're trying to face forwards, but again, you may find yourself at a slight angle. Don't force that change, but just try and work out what you need to do that. The length of the step, about the same or a little bit longer as the width, but not too short. This is too short. There isn't room for movement. So you want clear space between your back toes and your front heel here. And then just begin to move your weight forwards and backwards. Ideally, you will want the weight to settle just behind the ball of each foot. And that's simpler going forwards than it is going back, because the ball of foot is a natural stopping point for your weight as you move forwards. When we go forwards, we get about 60%, 60% of our weight in the front leg. And then when we go back, it's more like 70, because the angle of the back foot allows our hip to open. You may not get that much. And more important at this stage to just try and get a sense with the fluidity of the movement. Once again, as our weight settles in our leg, we feel that sense of pressure in the leg, which then begins to push back. And our intention is rather than to be pushed up at this point, but to be pushed forwards or backwards. So it's as though that center part of the body is now rolling from one foot to another. And in doing so, carries the rest of our body. So this is taking that sense of movement, of energy that comes from the rooting down, that comes from the ground, and giving it a sense of direction once again. This is where our intention becomes important. This is a good exercise for conditioning our legs. If you have problems with hips, knees, ankles, it's also a very good exercise, but don't overdo it. Realize that one of the things that we're trying to do is when we say go forwards, we want to feel the pressure of the weight in the sole of our foot, not in our knee or our hip or our ankle, or indeed in the muscles of the legs, but are dropping straight down. And this is quite difficult to develop. And there has to be physical conditioning going alongside the awareness of what we're trying to do. This is a really good exercise for our mobility and our stability. Means that we begin to understand how we can move, maintaining both that root that gives us the stability and the alignment of our body, which means that not only are we stable, but we're also upright. We're not having to strain back or shoulders or chest. And the next time you go into your front foot, just push your back knee forwards a little bit, and then your back heel will come up, and you'll go a little bit more into the front leg. When you go back, raising the toes, try not to pull up like this. In both instances, in the back leg, we can feel our hip beginning to drop. And also in the front leg, it's almost like somebody's pushed into your hip here and it's made you do that. So both these movements are associated with the releasing of our hips and the dropping in our center of gravity. You'll notice that I've turned my front foot out a little bit now to allow more weight to flow down through. So that feeling of releasing, remember the clenched fist to the more open fist, is a regular process. Every time we feel ourselves arriving in one leg, that releasing is applied. And that becomes a very intuitive, a very quick process. Again, for people with a bit more experience, it also applies as we push out. But now, bring one foot in, push back out, put the ball of your foot down, lower your heel. Front foot, it's your heel that goes down first. We plant the foot. Being careful about the step. Keeping your pelvis and your hips level. Remember, in previous exercises, we learned that, that the alignment of our pelvis has a massive influence on the alignment of our whole body. And overall, this gives us a sense of stability, not balance, but stability. And this is one of the things that Tai Chi is very good at helping us to achieve. And then try the same movements on the other side. So turn what will be the back foot out, stepping forwards, keeping the width of your step, looking for a nice fluid change from front to back. And you can feel like water flowing forwards and backwards in your body. We start to feel moved rather than having to strain to move. And again, that will come from the natural response of our body to the releasing in our hip and our knee, increased pressure. Our legs will condition to a point where they feel quite springy. It's like being on a trampoline or a bouncy castle. You have to get that sense of dropping down through your body in order to get the upward movement. Doesn't necessarily mean that our knees bend more, although they may do. But hips and knees in particular do need to release. And that will make it much stronger in the muscles of the legs. So go easy with this, beginning to raise your toes and your heel again, as we did before. Just recognize that you are asking the muscles of your legs in particular to do something that could be quite unusual if you're new to this. And because of that, they are working quite hard. And when they get tired, when they get fatigued, muscles stiffen up. So if you do need to rest, then do so. But this is a valuable exercise to practice. And then bring the foot in. You can put the toes down here, just checking your posture. This isn't an exercise in standing on one leg. It could be, you could raise the leg up, but if you're going to do that, you first bring the foot in, check in particular hips and pelvis, and only then would you consider raising your knee. Hips are hanging back, a feeling in hips and buttocks that they're somehow overhanging. Roughly speaking, you want to feel that your hips are in line with your ankles at this point. And then either forwards or backwards, take a few steps through, bring the foot in, forwards or backwards and out, plant the foot at hip width, and then transfer your weight. Try and give the foot a little sort of push into the ground, a gentle settling in before you move your weight, as though you're walking on thin ice. You just want to test the ice a little bit before you commit your weight. It's a simple walking practice. And then I'm going to change direction. Now go back into this posture. We call this the bow stance. And we're now going to make use of that energy, that movement, that dynamic quality that comes from the transfer of the weight and the rooting down to move the upper part of the body, to move the arms. Start with your weight in your back foot. Hold your hands across your belly. Push forwards. So sink into your front foot and let that movement push your arms out a little bit, drawing your fingers apart, opening your chest, and then reverse that going back. This is pigeon spreads its wings. So as we go forwards, we feel an expansion in belly, chest, and then as we go back, that contracts, and we feel the expansion in the back of our body. Gentle, pulsing movement. The quality of the movement is described in various ways. I've mentioned the connection with water, but sometimes we think about these movements being like being massaged internally, or about being bathed, about being washed, that all the internal tissues, the organs, the joints, and muscles, all being gently washed, bathed by the movement. So the pigeon spreads its wings. Now, let your hands drop back with the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, going forwards, and this time letting your arms follow the movement. And they swing through as you settle in the forward or backward leg. Most of the time they're trailing behind your shoulders, fingers nice and soft. This is fisherman castanet. There's a natural curve here. You don't have to lift your arms, they'll just naturally swing up with the momentum that comes from ground. A wave flowing through your body, forwards and then backwards. And always downwards into the supporting leg. See if you can just recognize again those patterns of expansion and contraction, within your body. Change over. So on the parallel stance, once again, starting in your back foot, hands on your belly, over that central part of the body, pushing forwards and up. And once again, there's a movement out from the center and back in. This reinforces physically, nervous system and our muscles, and mentally that location, that central part of the body. We come back and just for a moment, there's a sense once again settling. This is referred to in the classic writings in Tai Chi, where we're urged to seek the stillness within the movement. So there are these moments where we just touch that aspect of the art. Ideally, I suppose we would never lose it, but in practice, of course, we do. But we learn to come back. One more round. Pigeon spreads its wings. And then the hands drop down and change to fisherman cast and leg. I haven't mentioned the breathing at all in this class. To begin with, we should be just thinking in terms of letting our body breathe naturally. It knows how to breathe, and it will just become part of the overall rhythm. Don't hold your breath, don't force a breathing pattern, breathing method, unless you've got some experience and you do have some familiarity with that. Both of these movements involve us facing forwards, but remember, we can change the shape and the direction of a movement by changing our center. So this time, as you come back, turn, and that brings your hands close to the rear hips. Let them swing up a little bit higher, go forwards, turn, drawing your hands down, cross front hip, and then up, making a kind of sideways figure of eight move. Now I'm going to go forwards, and depends where you have the space, but this time when my hands come up, I bring my rear foot in, plant it forwards, and I step. Again, planting the foot. And once again, we may find we're able to do is to also raise the leg. I'm going to change direction now. Remember the order of the movement, feet first, and feel what's happening in the center of your body. And only then work out how to bring your upper body into harmony with those movements. And not to lead with your arms. And bring your feet back. Give your legs a little shake. Good. So now, rubbing your hands together. It's another good way of bringing your attention into your body. If you felt a little bit confused after that last exercise, you're trying to sort of coordinate different parts of the body, it can just help to bring your attention back in to your body. Tapping lightly over your face. And then going over your head and neck. Go to one shoulder and your arm, the sensations you get as your hand gently strikes your body on the other side. Move your hands around to your back, covering as much of your back as you can do comfortably. Don't strain for this. It's a help to just take some of the tightness that's developed out of your muscles around your hips. Very good for the circulation of energy, these movements. And then down the outside of your leg and up the inside. Come around nice and light on your belly. And on to the upper part of the chest. And shake out. So the overall rhythm, the overall pattern in Tai Chi and Qigong is a movement from the center and the ground. Thinking of those two things as being a bit synonymous in this sense, and then a movement back in. And we try and keep a sense of being centered, of being still, of being calm, of being rooted, and so on, the whole time, of course. But in practice, we often lose it for one reason or another. It's a bit like life, really, in that sense. This last exercise is called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. And then the emphasis is very much on coming back to a sense of being centered, rooted, still. So let your hips sink down once again, and then push up, start a little bit like the wild goose. Now, bringing your arms around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest, feeling the pull of gravity through your body, drawing your hands in and back down. Your arms drop down. Don't be in a hurry to start again. With the pressure from the ground, pushing you up, expanding, and then just beginning this process of contracting, returning to the mountain. Mountain may be a good image for you. It's a good image for all these different qualities of Tai Chi in many ways. But just see what it is that helps you to return. Is it the image of the mountain? Is it some kind of sensation in your body? What would be most useful to you later in the day when perhaps you lose that sense of stillness and calm? So maybe you're kind, maybe slip or this sort of a little bit unstable. What would be most useful for you to recall at that point? Just to aid this process of returning and coming back. Raise Tiger, return to mountain. One more round. And thank you very much for watching and joining in. As I said earlier, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'll do my best to answer them. But enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Bye for now.